All right, we are live with episode 192 of the SEO Vault. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. And we would definitely appreciate if you go ahead and share this with anybody that works in the industry that you think should tune in as we go through this live. But today we have just me and Mike again. We're looking to start to implement a bunch of the changes to the actual show in not the next week, but the week following that. But for now, it's just us two coming at you with news, and we're also going to throw in a little bit of some AI related topics. Not purely just content related, but Mike definitely has some updates he wants to share. But before we get into that, remember to check us out on our YouTube channel. That's where we upload these videos. We also have the SEO Vault website if you want to check out, I guess, just the backlog in another different way to view them. We're also on different podcast streaming platforms as well. So look us up online if Facebook isn't your preferred method of listening to podcasts. So we don't have any huge brand updates right now. Well, I can throw in a quick thing as far as brand updates because I know a lot of people were asking about the proposal tool that we have at Web20. And we are actually revamping that right now, so it's not currently up. We're hoping for, in the next coming weeks to have a newly built one that's going to be just way more insightful across the board and just include a little bit more of what I would consider critical points as far as things that are going to be pivotable in your pitch, as well as just really important for building the campaign for success also. So that's pretty much it as far as brand updates, unless, Mike, you have anything from your side.
No. I mean, I think that's actually a pretty big update, right there. So we're actually got, obviously we say every week we got a lot of things, happening, but like that, the proposal tool, and I know even too, we've been looking into like the branded materials and stuff. It's been
The
a
white
red
label
label
sales
branded.
materials.
Yeah. Like if anyone doesn't know, we have all types of resources available on our site. We don't just sell services. We have, guides, we have tools, pricing calculators, proposal generators. Some of those things are currently down because they're reworking. I think like the proposal one may not be working at the exact moment. Um, but yeah, we built a lot of actual tools that agency owners have used to sell and pitch, and the proposal generator specifically tied in with our review process where we do free recommendations and reviews and service recommendations, and putting that hand in hand with like proposals and whatnot is very powerful. So I'm happy to hear that we finally got some stuff being done on that. I know I've taken a look at it here and there over the past years, but we haven't done like a major revamp on some of those things for about 2-3 years now. So that's exciting.
Yeah,
Definitely watch out for that.
that's gonna be huge once that's ready. I pretty much put together like a huge doc and like a slideshow presentation just to kind of explain all the little bits that I want to update. But yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. Hopefully, in the next few weeks or so, we come back with news as to when that's going to come out. Oh yeah, and then white label sales materials. So I'm basically going through that effort myself right now, and it's going to take some time, but I think I'm going through kind of like the concrete foundational types of information. So the local SEO course 3.0, still in the works currently right now. And that with the proposal tool, I feel like is a good way to kind of lead into all the other changes that we're bringing. But it's all going to tie together. So even if you jump into it right now and look at that older content, it's still going to be useful as far as kind of seeing how things have been done this whole time and watching as we update what it is that we're focusing more on now. So, okay. Now, before we get into the news, I wanted to bring up just a quick topic, and we're going to start to get more into just being topic based as far as all of these episodes. But even now, just kind of wanting to introduce a little bit of a topic for this video. I know Mike had a little bit he wanted to talk about some AI plugins and just further uses to AI outside of content. I can throw in my 2 cents in there just because I recently put together a sort of like a strategy to actually submit and do the guest blog post strategy or any type of outreach strategy with alternating languages. So I can throw in a little bit of that in there, but I'm curious to hear, Mike, what you've been working on lately. You're obviously working way more with AI than I am. I'm just kind of following your footsteps and watching as you build this stuff out. So, what have you been seeing lately?
Well, I mean, there's a ton you can do just with like the GPT-4 API. Anyone who isn't signed up, you can go to beta.openai.com. I believe there, and that's where you can sign up and request GPT-4 API. It doesn't cost anything to go and try and get the API and have it. And you're gonna probably see a massive amount of softwares and services that are going to provide functionality on top of the GPT-4 API. Literally, where you're going to pay $50 a month for something, and they're going to say, "Go get your GPT-4 API, plug it in here." But then this is going to just automate all this stuff. So, and I already see like chat.openai.com doing that. If you go to chat.openai.com, I'm sure a lot of people already play around with that. And you pay the $20 a month, get access to GPT-4 and all the plugins and stuff. They have, I mean, they got plugins for like everything now, but one of them is even Zapier, which I've been playing around with pretty extensively. So you can use up to 3 plugins at once. They have, web browsing and things like that. I haven't even played with the web browsing. I still recommend not using web browsing with ChatGPT. It's just you lack the control over the information it's going to pull from the web. So you just always want to give it the information.
And that's where you request it to search for the page versus you providing the page. Is that what you're talking about?
No, so you can install a few plugins. The one that I use the most, I think, is Web Pilot. Yeah, so Web Pilot is a plugin that allows you to essentially crawl the web pages, PDFs, general articles, and you can put like a list of URLs. You can put like 10 URLs and it'll go through one at a time and crawl them. So I'll use Web Pilot. And then, like I said, if you hook up Zapier, then all of a sudden you can tie in anything. So just with Web Pilot and Zapier, you can say, go to this web page or, create a spreadsheet, make one column that is keyword, one column that is references, and go to this website and look at which words, single phrases are referenced the most times and list them in order from most reference to least reference in the keyword column and list how many times they're referenced in the reference column.
That sounds like a
And
lot of the tools that a lot of us in the industry are using that we pay a lot of
exactly.
money for.
And so with just that prompt now, you can have the AI go out and look at that and do those things and put it in the sheet. And then GPT-4 is definitely needed for something like that because when it comes to like the math and things, sometimes simple math, it can honestly not be so good with it. They seem to be getting, I don't know if it's getting better or maybe, I don't know what, but I've had better results with asking, um, like, how many times does this word show up in this article or something like that, just kind of testing it. So yeah, aside from that though, they even have just more basic SEO plugins, like one that's called SEO Core AI that'll essentially look at like the metadata, the page load speed, like all the regular stuff. I can't remember if it did like schema or not.
And what plugin
Um,
was this that we can do all this stuff in?
so this is SEO Core AI. And if you go to Chat GPT, you have to go to your chat.openai.com and click on the GPT-4. There should be a drop down. If you don't have access to plugins, you might have to go to your settings. It's the 3 little dots next to your name. Um, but I think they might have just rolled it out for everything
Yeah, it's
at
definitely a
this
lot of
exact.
updates happening constantly with that. But I mean, all this stuff that you explained, for one, it replaces some of the tools that we might use, especially if you're not using the tool like a very specific way. So if you're just using one of these analysis tools to just give you information and then other people are making decisions off of it, you might not have like you might start to lose the need for these other expensive softwares that you might be using in, in return for building something custom that kind of works a little bit better for your use case specifically. Or maybe more so just about your niche, right? Like different niches are often work very differently. But so and then this stuff, you don't have to be a developer, right, to know any of this stuff. Like
No.
you don't really have to know any specific code or custom make anything on your own. You're just kind of connecting things how you want. So
Yeah, like especially if you go to like Code Canyon and look up just open AI software or whatever. There's a million platforms that are literally, just like any one of the million AI writing tools now where you can create your own prompts, your own chats with your own training within the chat. Um,
and that's the
e-
thing. All these other tools, like they have, sure, they can spend a lot of time on prompts and everything. But if that's not the same use case I need it for, it's almost like I don't know. You're paying so much money for something that you could be making way more tailored, anyways. But yeah, we've definitely reached a point where I think a lot of us should be messing with this stuff, even if it's just Zapier. Zapier in this plugin. Um, all of a sudden you have all these separate entities, all these separate agencies that are now going to go and build using these things that we didn't have before. So just think about all the different um, the differences in the amount of knowledge I guess you can acquire really quickly with using this stuff. I know I see Rehan asked in the chat here about the proposal tool. So if you are trying to get a proposal right now, I would say go through the campaign recommendation process because that's going to be way better to get up to date info than that older tool. But the ETA for that, I don't have a good ETA right now. We just put together all the notes and we've just started rebuilding it. So probably wait another, I don't know, 3 weeks to kind of hear back on where we are with that. But sorry, I kind of interrupted there for the chats. But so yeah, a lot of these items are going to help revolutionize, I would say, the proposal process or just getting caught up with a campaign the moment you're handed it to you. Because I know I just recently crawled the website. It was more of like an e-commerce store, and it was a good like 80,000 pages or something. So at first I was kind of intimidated by the fact that it might take like forever to really take a good look at the website. But I mean, a lot of it comes off of the fact that like something like Screaming Frog just kind of throws a million different issues and errors at you and tells you need to fix all of them. But once you start looking at it, especially since the website is so systematically created, I can see how AI prompts can be implemented to just help decipher the information as far as, oh, well, it's bringing up a lot of errors because you forgot to set like this low content or no content page to no index. Certain little bits here and there to where you're not just sending somebody a huge list of issues and then they start going through them and they realize that they're like false positives. But yeah, do you know of anything else, I guess, that people are in the middle of producing right now as far as the plugins with OpenAI?
Specifically with chat, you mean like the openai.com chat? I mean, there's so much stuff. Some of it I haven't really gone down that road because I see it and I know I'll just rabbit hole on it and I have absolutely no purpose for it. Like I think I saw like an Instacart plugin or something. I don't know if that allows you to just like tell it to order groceries, give me a recipe for this and add it to my cart on Instacart or something like that. Um, but it's gonna be an endless like we're gonna see an endless list of plugins being developed, open source scripts, reseller, scripts on Code Canyon. It's just going to be left and right. The one I was actually just testing with those two plugins to the SEO AI one and the web pilot, and literally just gave it a web page and told it to write the full schema, for all the everything possible based on the product, services, locations, and everything. And yeah, it just pretty much gave it back. It looks pretty perfect. It filled in anything it couldn't find. It said it filled in with placeholders
Okay.
on the page. Um, so yeah, like service area. I wonder if it actually had some of this stuff more in there. Yeah, this actually isn't a local website, so that's why it didn't find. Yeah, I'm curious if I tried a local website. But this is pretty much so yeah, literally just dropping a link and saying write all the schema for this page, filling in everything that's available on the page and just putting placeholders for things that should be there that isn't currently there. And boom, it gave me my schema. This
Nice.
is
Yeah, and then
pretty cool.
okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna take a look through those plugins a little bit throughout the next week. I know the last episode I talked a little bit about the multi-language and just kind of diving into other languages with a plugin. And I gave my thoughts as far as what type of plugin to look for, just going after the more manual ones, just because now we have better tools for the content itself. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's curious to hear more about how I'm going through it, but it's been pretty simple with ChatGPT, GPT-4, getting the translations out. So the specific process I'll go through, and I think I mentioned it before, where a lot of it it's based upon the info that you feed it. Like, you don't want to just rely on whatever it gives you, whatever decisions it makes on its own. But yeah, all in all, I kind of break it down a lot more than just question and answer. I kind of say, here's this briefing, and it has not only the semantic core of the business, but I also put together unique descriptions. So let's say you're trying to expand a business into a new language. You can get the original language in English, show it to, you can pay a translator, but they should really only be translating something like the briefing, where they're rewriting the bios, the main description of the business, so that they can get a little bit of like certain verbiage. Because what happens, at least with Spanish, and it definitely happens a lot with other languages I just know specifically with Spanish, there's different ways to reference things. So even like something like the state of Florida, for example. On a lot of websites right now, on lawyer websites that have pages for Florida, it references Florida the same way you would in English. So I live in Florida, where in Spanish it's I live in the Florida, essentially. So there's little tiny distinctions in the way that you reference things, where at least that example, it actually makes a difference if you're going and doing headings and optimizing them. But with a good briefing, where you spend a lot of time on the original content is on the briefing, just a huge document, maybe a good 1,000 words, where you're just stuffing everything you can about the brand, about its entity. They're also listed on this, and this. They have a 5-star rating, whatever. Here, all of that stuff, and then actually going into, here's the service pages that we're working on, because those are the main topics. Now, this is the other part where it struggled a lot. And I see this a lot with people that do even link building, just coming up with good topics for the content that's being used to submit to get a guest blog post going. If you use generic topics and you insert generic topics into an AI tool like this, you get very generic content overall. If you pay a lot more attention to just the topic selection or how you're going about choosing new topics, that's really where all of a sudden it's like, wow, the article it just spit out is actually like very helpful, very useful, and since it's in a new language, it just so happens that nobody in the city or nobody in the state has written about this in this language. So, I'm trying to find all these little gaps, right? Because outside of what the tools tell you as far as what's bringing in traffic, what about all the pages that people are being too lazy to even produce because they're in like a different language? So yeah, that's how I'm tackling that. I'm wondering if anybody has questions, but just feeding it the topics of the service pages and asking it specifically, can you give me subtopics for this? All of a sudden, it's pulling out some really insightful long tails that it just wasn't before when you just hit it with the general. I'm an injury law firm. I want different topics for car accidents. It's just way, way different than that.
I also like to explore, like, if you just say give me related topics or topics, then you get, just that. But if you say give me 20 related topics, create some that are controversial, create some that are comparing this to other things, create, like, give it some ideas of, like, not just like related topics, but like I said, controversial or news related or something, by just putting those little tweaks in like what you're saying or asking the AI, it can get much more creative with what it gives you. So I definitely like to play around, or just even asking what type of searcher intent, or like what situation would a person be in if they were searching for this word on Google, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I've definitely gone that route as far as here's the scenario, and it's just like the avatar in context, the marketing avatar in context, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what would you look for? Like, I've definitely done that, and sometimes, especially because I'm doing the car accident stuff, it'll be like, I don't want to think about that situation. But yeah, that's another good way to go about it, especially if you need just creative help to help you like come up with different topics that again aren't things that you can just easily pull off of organic keyword analysis from Ahrefs or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, even just when you're doing like on page optimization too, because a lot of people will focus on like the number of times a keyword is references or number of headings or images or alt text or whatever, but they don't actually look at like what is being talked about on the page. What is the intent? Like, if someone's searching for a specific service, they're probably going to want to know pricing, reviews, the process of the service, what to expect, who would be doing it, like, but to really dig down deep into what those different thought processes that a person would be thinking when they're saying, I want to buy this specific service. What am I looking for that would help that buying decision? That's what a lot of people, I think, don't really pay attention to, because you could have the perfect keyword density and reference all your related terms and talk about nothing on the page, and it
Right.
will not help you, especially in the modern day algorithm. And obviously competition's a big part too. I've done some searches where it's like, clearly everyone is just putting in a prompt in ChatGPT and that's what's ranking. But
Right, right. So, yeah, what you're saying is like you're still using machine learning, but now you're using it in a creative way to get something more valuable than what is probably out there in the market. Because, yeah, I can think about all these home service niches where people are just super lazy with the content. And I mean, yeah, you could do all the analysis you want, you could meet competitor parity, but if you were trying to go above and beyond and not just kind of follow what the tools say, that's how you can kind of extract a little bit more information while still using that. Because yeah, it's like, but using regular machine learning, well, I guess I'm thinking of it over time as the internet space gets more crowded, or even if it doesn't get more crowded, if everybody now starts using AI to make better content for the previously terrible, how do I say it? For the markets that were previously just awfully covered online, now you have to kind of come back and it's not just about the keyword density anymore. Like you said, you can throw word soup and maybe right now or like a year ago, that's totally fine. But it's not always going to be fine. At least not as people get even better with their content creation.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be about what you're talking about more than what words are on the page in general. And that's what, like, even with AI, there's a lot of people out there, like, and I might get some hate for this, but like I don't rewrite my AI content. Like I don't like people who say it's like an assistant. Like it is an assistant, but it generally will write stuff better than I will write it myself. And if I go in and start editing words or changing things, I'm just gonna make the grammar or spelling worse probably because that's how bad I am at writing. And I know some writers will probably say, well, maybe you should get better at writing. But the fact is, no, my time is better spent using the AI as a like a person to bounce ideas off of, to explore options, to do creative thinking, than to figure out how to best word a sentence when it can just write a sentence. And I could say, hey, I don't like the way the sentence sounds, can you rewrite it like 5 different ways and give me some options? Like you can do that, but I'm not going to sit there and write a sentence or edit its sentence. I think if you're effectively using AI, then you're having it do the work. You're focusing on engaging with it and directing it, analyzing things with it, getting data with it. But if you're just like I definitely, you can't just say write a blog post about this, click the button. But if you say write a paragraph about this for and make this an important factor
And then
and do
follow
that.
up with this or
Yeah, so it
dive
can lead
into
into a
that.
next paragraph where we're going to talk about this, and you click send and you copy that and put it in your content. Yeah, that, I'm sorry, you're just being effective. You could hate me for
Well,
saying that, but that's just being an effective user of
yeah,
AI.
well, I guess you're putting in more effort on the front end of getting
Yeah.
to the result, anyways. So it makes sense, yeah. I
Well,
think,
AI just takes out the learning curve. You no longer have to like spend years mastering a craft now to do something extremely well. The differentiator between someone writing something good or not is going to be their ability to research and figure out how to compile that data. What's the best way to deliver it? Because the AI isn't going to just do that all on its own.
and that's better. I guess that sounds like a better way to get quality content than to use human writers, but force them to have a very rigid and very specific way to structure their writing. So I say
Mhm.
this because it's like, okay, well, what's the alternative? Okay, well, if you have a writing team, right? You can definitely leverage the fact that they're all human and have them all research and have them all be very creative and very, very resourceful and useful. But I guess the way I see it still right now, and definitely just as a result of the past, is like, okay, if your only option was humans, and that's how you've been doing it for years, but you were still trying to optimize your process and make it easy, make it cost effective, you've probably, or like if you've gone so far as to telling your writers, this is the proper structure for a service page, like you do this, then you do that, then you do that, then you do that, and you did the same thing for the blog post, I would argue that you could end up with, like putting a human into such a locked, like square type of perspective. I would argue you could probably end up with way lower quality content running a human team like that, then forcing them to actually have to understand these tools and have to actually research on their own.
Yeah,
Um,
writing skills are going to be, they're just commoditized. I'm sorry, writers are going to hate me for saying
Commoditized. Well,
that.
yeah,
There, but I mean, it's not a bad thing for writers because you could still use AI.
it's a bad
Like
thing if you
your
keep doing
focus
it.
needs to be on research and understanding communication skills,
Yeah,
not writing and grammar and spelling. That you need to start just kind of pivoting towards, like I said, communication is going to be huge, like definitely huge, because it's the one thing that the AI, it can sound human, but it can't be human, at least not yet, and it's going to be a while before that comes. So, and the thing is too, with even ChatGPT, and you can crawl URLs, you can use these SEO tools to say crawl these 4 pages and make a list of all the topics that are referenced on all these pages and compile them into like everything you would create as your process to have one person do. and then get handed off to someone to create an outline and handed off to someone to do research and then handed off to someone who takes the research and the outline to write this massively intricate referenceable article. Yeah, you can do all of the actual heavy lifting parts and focus on just the acquisition and data and organization now. But again, we did kind of fall back on like using AI for writing, but it's really more than just writing. Because like I said, when we really dig into it, or when I look at it myself, I'm thinking just in general connecting, like with Zapier, the fact that I can use the web performance plugin and the Zapier plugin and say go crawl this website, create a list. I just installed the SEO.app plugin, which actually gave me some interesting stuff for it's a personal SEO assistant for content marketing, is what the description said. Um, but I could post that URL and just have it give me a full list of keywords, competitors, all types of stuff, and put it in a sheet, put it in a report, like all from OpenAI. So and that report could also email it to the client. I could say put it in a report. You know what I mean? Turn it, put that link in an email that explains what the report is for this client, this email address. All of that can just run through chat.openai, hooks into your Zapier and everything. So
Yeah, I have a lot
do
to
it.
build. There's a lot for me to build. So many different things. I do want to just keep diving into different things, even if they're rabbit holes. I tend to learn a little bit. So
And the thing with ChatGPT though is that it's not even building, it's more so install the plugin and then use verbal communication to execute commands. That's it. That's like, and if you really want a rabbit hole, like I said, go to Code Canyon. You could buy some scripts and install those and play around with it. I think some have Zapier hook-ins now and web hooks and things. You can have fun there, but literally just go to chat.openai.com, pay the $20 a month. It installed the Zapier plugin, the SEO plugins. Um, there's even some like fun games and stuff. I installed a few of those and then quickly uninstalled them because, like I said, I'll burn up so much time doing that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to see too how, because I think all these plugins are accessible through GitHub, right? I think they're all
yeah,
out there.
well that and then now because I'll be looking at my own stuff that my own little side projects, and it's like, oh, it can all kind of get connected, or like, wow, that's only like a web hook away from kind of communicating with this other piece that would want to automate.
And
Um,
I think a lot of it is available too. So if you could build it out, which again, I'm pretty sure we're going to see massive amounts of, we're going to have systems like a new Zapier, but it's not Zapier, it's AI Zapier. You
yeah,
just
yeah,
connect all your accounts and then you just tell it what to do. Or if you want to create
oh,
an
beautiful.
automation, you tell it what to do and you save that prompt as the automation. Like it's going to be like that. Um, I bet the first ones we see are going to be get your API from OpenAI, because those APIs aren't super quick and easy to get. And when you do get them, you only get like $150 limit. I put in one request and I got up to over 200, and I just got another approval for, I'm at 2,000 now.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm very excited about that. I'm grinding them to try and get that 32K API. I've been seeing some people talking about getting access, so I've been resubmitting the waiting list for the API for the GPT-4, trying to get the 32K. But definitely get on that, people. You're gonna massively fall behind in any tech industry. There's any tech industry right now, and you're not looking into AI. I'm sorry, you're gonna fall behind. It's just that's you could throw some hate at me if you want to,
All
but
right.
it's
All right.
gonna happen.
Good afternoon, AJ. See you tuning in once again. So, all right, so let's go into the news now. So, we have a bunch of different topics that are picked out. Some of them more important than others, I would say, but I guess anything super groundbreaking as far as changing the platform, I would say no, but definitely a bunch of things to look out for here as the platform, as the GBP, the business platform, starts to keep developing. So we're looking at Google Business Profiles. They added a new language assistance section. So basically just another spot for you to add those attributions to your GBP as far as what languages you serve. Pretty basic, but they did add a whole bunch of different languages. It's not just like English, Spanish type of thing. So another thing to look out for, making sure that you're filling out. Again, if you have any clients that specifically serve some type of a language, especially if it's not like, if it's not like a big one, if it's not English or Spanish and they have another language that they offer, it's huge to be able to put it in there because of the long tails. So it's like if you don't feed that info to Google, it has to take its long-term approach of being able to distinguish the fact that you should be served for people on that platform who speak that language or maybe have their browser set to that language. But if you kind of go ahead and specify it from the start, you gain that relevance right away. So people looking for a specific service from a company that specifically teaches or speaks in their language, and not just the typical business, then that's going to be huge for you. I'm trying to think, Mike, if you have any other ways that this could make a difference with rankings. Oh, you're muted there.
Sorry, my daughter was screaming. I turned it off for a minute. Yeah, as I've said before, I don't have too much experience with multi-language stuff or whatever. Definitely some benefit. I know there's a lot of people out there just repurposing content in multiple languages or building backlinks with multiple different language anchor text and things. But I don't have a lot of experience. But it sounds like there's definitely some opportunity there, or even just great for the people obviously that speak different languages.
Yeah, so that's one thing. If they speak something that's not English or Spanish, they should be ranking at the top if you search for something with the language in there as a modifier. If they're not, then I would say take a look at maybe some content that you can put out there on the website, because those are one of those easy long tails that your clients should be grabbing up right away if there's not that many competitors doing that. That's pretty much it for that one. So, unusual AMP crawl issues. So I had a comment on this one. What do you, Mike? Do you have any specific niches that you actually recommend people to use AMP with? Because
No,
I have not used
I've
AMP.
never even explored AMP, and I've heard that there really wasn't much to it. So yeah, I don't know. I got nothing to add there.
I've never seen any sort of like significant tests saying that even has a big ranking boost over not using it either. And it just seemed like a big rabbit hole of different things to learn, so I just never dove into that one. But so if you use AMP on your sites, go to the AMP enhancements reports in GSC. Filter by crawl issues, because you might have some spikes in crawl issues there. But I mean, crawl issues tends to happen on the platform, so nothing too crazy there. So this one was pretty cool. So a lot of people always complain about the GBP services section, especially maybe like a year ago or farther back. I feel like those were very, very volatile. Like they would, like you'd put stuff in there, it'd get changed by Google, or you'd get very random suggestions in there. It's definitely gotten better over time, but now we're actually seeing in the news here that they're adding the button. So out of that line of buttons that it gives you whenever you click on a GBP, like the call, website, all of those, it's now showing you the services button first. So making a big point of like showing you what all services that they handle. I don't know what too much else to say about that other than I mean, again, with the long tails, especially if you have something that's not super competitive, but it's a type of service, like a sub service, or if it's an attorney and it's a very obscure type of case, but you put it in there in the services section, that can definitely be a nice boost as far as gaining long tail visibility in the maps. Outside of that, I mean, just keeping that accurate so you don't get customers that kind of call you up for a certain service and you don't offer it. But in the past, it's like that's never really mattered because nobody really looks at the services section. So I'm guessing this is why they're trying to make a bigger push out of that. I don't know what you think, Mike.
Sorry, I just got.
The services section of the GBPs.
We've said forever, optimize your services. You know, there it's obvious everything on that listing should be optimized, and it should be. I wouldn't be surprised if Google puts even more emphasis on those profiles in general. They're adding more attributes. I don't. Did we even get to that? Oh yeah, we already talked about the languages. So over time, I think Google's going to, well, we've already seen them really start to build out the Maps platform where they're trying to make it more like its own ecosystem. Um, so yeah, definitely just make sure all your services are filled out. I would expect products also to get a massive. They've been getting more emphasis as well. So
Okay, I'm gonna skip through a few of these because they're a little bit of like smaller little additions. There was a comment from John Mueller that people were talking about as far as somebody had basically sent in a kind of like a list of a strategy that they wanted to do. So let me take a look at that really quick. So it was basically somebody asked, hey, can I pretty much grab one of these large authority sites that do reviews? So like Capterra, G2, Trustpilot. Can I just grab one of these, essentially copy, scrape what they have, put it on my site, add to it? Can I do that? Basically, somebody's asking. There's definitely people that do strategies like that for building different properties.
can you scrape? What was that again?
So somebody here is trying to scrape Capterra or like the reviews platform. So to scrape all the reviews, what content do they have that's not just their? No, yeah, they have blog. These websites, G2, Trustpilot, they do have
I mean,
blog
what, they
sections.
just want to steal their content. I don't get what's the
Yeah, yeah, steal the
okay.
content. I was trying to make sure it wasn't steal like the reviews themselves, like the
Well, I
text
mean,
of the.
what's the goal? What's the purpose?
It
Like,
seems
what do
like
they?
there's
If they
not.
want to put the content on their site, then yeah, just I mean, canonical it to their site, attribute it. Like, I mean, every news site out there syndicates news, and if you want to share that on your site, yeah, go ahead, just do it the proper way. If you just throw it on your site and post it, that's probably not going to be well.
Yeah, so it looks like the objective is, yeah, to basically win them or beat them in competition, be a competitor. But it also, they were specifically also trying to copy and paste like the reviews themselves. So it just sounds like a very spammy way to go about it. But I mean, from John Miller just kind of saying, I don't know how insightful it is when he says these types of comments, but just kind of saying that taking the shortcuts are just a gamble. I mean, we kind of all know that already, though. I don't know if having it confirmed by John Mueller makes too much of a difference, but I know people like to see him specifically say, don't do this, don't do
Yeah,
that.
I would say go throw the URL in ChatGPT though, and have it rewrite like we're all going to take shortcuts. Like the question is, how short of a shortcut are you going to take? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
we're not at a point in our life where I'm going to go down and chop down a tree and make a pencil out of it so I can write it out on a piece of paper. Like what, you know what I mean? Like there's everything's a shortcut. So how short of a shortcut is it? And is there a purpose? That's the real question. So if you want to take those reviews and snapshot them, now there's of course this is all outside legal issues and you know what I mean if they DCMA or tell you can't do that, whatever. But as far as like the SEO side of it, if you want to say, check out these reviews, take a snapshot, put some alt text for their brand with the reviews, with the keyword, reference some of their content, and then even write, like you can use the content, reference it in quotes on the page, write additional unique content. We did tests on this that if you had even like up to 30% unique content and added it to completely duplicate content, you could outrank the other content because your content essentially could provide more value. Just because you add more words to it doesn't mean it will, but if you add more value, it can. That's a logical thing, right? So again, make sense with it. Don't just you can't just copy and paste things. That's not a shortcut. That's just stupid. But if it
Yeah,
makes sense, do it, and you can take shortcuts that have massive results. So
yeah.
yeah,
So that's
that's my
and
2 cents.
that was like the last part of what he said was, oh, taking shortcuts isn't gonna work, but it's or they won't gain traffic. So it's like, for one,
But it,
I
it
guess,
could,
yeah,
depending on how you do it.
it could. It's like I'm more worried about, is this legally viable? Am I gonna get DMCA'd versus
Yeah.
is this gonna rank? Because yeah, like at the end of the day, you've done the test where you just grab somebody's content and can outrank them. Like there's ways to do it, and there's ways to at least keep it so Google doesn't freak out. It's like, oh well, it's not just copied; it is specially tailored towards users in some way.
Well, we
Um,
did a test a long while ago, and I haven't retested this, and I definitely don't suggest using this as a strategy, but it was for testing purposes, where we took someone's content, posted it on our blog with an earlier date published than theirs. And of course Google indexed it and crawled it after theirs, but we put the published date before theirs, and then we posted other blogs that had syndicated the content from our site and canonicaled back to our site, some of them before the after our post date, but before the other post date, and some after the other post date. And within, I think, about a month or two, it literally just completely swapped the site out of the SERPs for that keyword. So there was and Google, that was around the time, I remember, like a year and a half ago, Google was talking about canonicals, and they were like, make sure
oh
you
yeah,
have these set because we are not as good with these as you think we might be.
yeah. Okay, yeah, so definitely calling BS on him saying that it's not gonna work, because it's gonna work to some degree.
Just do something that makes sense for a reason. If your concept is, can I just copy and paste content and throw it on my site? That's you've already, if that's your train of thought for anything you're doing that is business related, you got to be a little more in depth with your thought process than that. So, but yes, on a very high scale, can you take content from somewhere else and use it to gain traffic on your website? Yes, I would say yes. That's 110%. I would not. I'll die on that hill.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I see a comment here from Ben Schmitz. Should we stop putting our services as products? Okay, yeah. So I'm pretty sure I've asked you this before, Miles, but my stance on it is, if it's a service, don't put like a product,
Don't put
right?
roofing repair as a product.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like if it's an
Put the
actual
products
and people
and
debate the semantics. I'm like, look, like if it's a product or if it's a service. Don't put the service in the product. My stance is, if I see people come in, they give me their GBP and they've got services in there and they got like GIFs and stuff on. I'm sorry, but I'm wiping those out. I
if
don't.
you offer roof repair and roofing replacement, put asphalt shingles as a product, and in the description for it, talk about how you use asphalt shingles for roofing repair and roofing replacement, and put your equipment, put metal roofing, flashing, all that stuff. You want to list the products, but don't list your services as products. That's obviously that never made sense to me. It did work though. It worked very, very well for some time. Um, and we did it all the time. But now, no, we've actually had some mass suspension issues in the past. Not we, Web20, me.
I I've personally
I
had
did
a
with
GBP.
products. So
I've
yeah,
personally had a
definitely don't
GBP.
do that.
I personally had a GBP that was suspended, and it was the only time where they would take over a month to reply to me when I reached out, right? And then when they finally replied, probably a month and a half later
Yeah.
since starting it, they finally said, "Hey, we reinstated it. We edited some stuff. It was not compliant, but it's back." And
They
it was like
removed the products.
very, yeah, very, ambiguous. And then I dive into the GBP right away. I'm just like, what did they change? And it's like the only thing that they
It's
did,
the only
they deleted
thing.
the products and they just set it back live. I'm just like, oh
That's
my
what they
god.
did for ours, where I was in a situation with one company where there was like a ton of them suspended, and we were getting them back one by one, but there was quite a few that we got. They were like, yeah, we put it back up. We just changed to remove the thing, and it was always the pro. That was like the number one consistent thing. There was another thing too, actually, and this was I'm not going to say the exact niche. I guess it doesn't matter if I say the niche because there's a lot of people I've worked with in this niche. But it was dumpster rentals.
Okay.
So, but they used to list, there wasn't a dumpster rental category at one point. So every dumpster rental service was listing waste management. And when we started getting targeted, we started actually getting in trouble for listing waste management. They were trying to say that wasn't a relevant category. It needed to be dumpster rentals. So it was very interesting because they just created this new category that wasn't there before. And all of a sudden we were getting in trouble for not using it. But this is the point to emphasize the importance of go back and check do category research every 6 months, a year, whatever. I mean, if you're not constantly digging into the new features and what's available on GBPs, then I don't feel like you're really taking the SEO seriously, anyways. But seriously, check those categories, stay on top of those. Even with services, where they have the predefined services, all that stuff, definitely stay on top of that. Anything that you can list that Google's directly saying like we support this as a thing, as an entity, on your listing. So sorry, this is my little rant. I wanted to really quick just touch back on the AI. I was just playing around with VoxScript. It's the one that allows you to go out and crawl Google with ChatGPT. I've been asking it to go out to Google and get me lists of medical and dental websites or related blogs that allow guest posting. And I've already gotten, I mean, it's given me a few blogs that offered guest posting sites. So I got like a list right here of 250 blogs that provide guest posting. And then it gave me like Linkio and a few others that have some good dental databases and stuff. But it's also given me some like Dental Post, Med News, quite a few of these that specifically, they have a guest post page. But I was curious if it would go out and I was telling it just go find more, go find more. So yeah, if you want the AI to go out and crawl the web and Google search to find guest posting sites, you can do that as well. Just to add on top of that, it's not just a content game, people.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm like looking through it, and a lot of this stuff is also fresh to the platform or like to online to everything. But just trying to find articles, like I'm already thinking you could probably write a lot of articles just about documentation or use cases of these plugins and probably get some nice traffic because I don't see very much coverage on this stuff right now online. Um, but yeah, lots of stuff I'm gonna start diving into. So you
I
said
did
this is
hear there was
basically.
some OpenAI conference or something that was highly disappointing and was a massive
Oh,
pitch
I
fest.
did see a few people, yeah, a few agency owners talking about that. So that's the thing. I guess I don't know if how would you even go about choosing a good one, right? Because I don't who are the authorities?
Well, so I don't know. Who's the good one when you come into SEO? There's authorities, but I mean, trust me, there's a lot of those authorities that I personally wouldn't call authorities. So, that's, but the real thing is, though, is regardless of who you are or whatever it is, I think we're new enough with OpenAI that you're gonna find all the good stuff, anything you need in a YouTube video or in training or just in people talking about. Like, we should just do a AI webinar or something, Victor. Like,
Maybe.
do a
Well,
little.
at least I'm already seeing there's not that much just written content online on Google for this stuff right now. So it's like maybe we should start documenting some stuff. But just looking at this Vox script thing, I saw like, and I see just 7 days ago they just started their subreddit. It looks like. So they're sharing a bunch of info on there. Definitely go there if you're trying to see like the use cases, right? To know if, oh, is this a tool I need to use or can I get value from it? But like this Vox script looks pretty cool. So I'm seeing a use case where they so like public companies, they do their shareholder meetings. Very, very boring. Nobody, like, so few people actually watch or sit there through a shareholder meeting. Nowadays, it's just transcripts or AI that's, disseminating the info or
We're
trading upon,
building something for that actually shareholder meetings with the GPT-4 API.
or it's literally the trading bot that was written is just written based off of like the continuous input of shareholder meetings. So you didn't nobody even like looks at them anymore, which is funny. But so Vox script, it looks like you could use it to input a giant transcript, the full transcript from the shareholder meeting, and then pull out all of the associating press releases or other web pages, web posts that associate to the references that they're making. So huge as far as like research, especially in the finance world, where like the research and the data and how fresh, how fast you can process the data into what you do. Huge use cases here, but really
Yeah, if you
exciting to
were
see.
like, I think I was saying last week, if you work in any like technical or technology niche or whatever, with using GPT to look at or like Vox scripts and like loading it up with technical documentation about different services, or even if you're like doing a review, if you have like a review site, an affiliate review site, massive. It's probably my most used one right now. It's still giving me a list of guest post sites. I got 45. I got Kevin MD. There was a few other science-based medicine, emed cert blog, the non-clinical PT, wellness creatives. Yeah, these all have guest posting.
I wanted to mention one thing, probably the last thing here, unless you want to add something else. But I did see, I don't have the article in front of me, but my friends were sharing this with me. Apparently, somebody made, using AI, I forget which one of the ones that make videos, somebody made a fake video of, I believe, the Pentagon building getting blown up just within the last few weeks. But see, I've been a little bit disconnected because I've been working a lot here on the SEO. But apparently, in the last few weeks, there was a giant crash in the S&P 500 or the SPY that's tracking it, which happened for like a day because of that video, which is interesting because for one, somebody used AI to fool people, but I don't think it was actually that people were fooled. I think it fooled the algorithms looking for info that are trading upon the info live as it happens. Um, but I thought that was interesting that people, there's always going to be bad actors and people trying to cause some grief, but
Well, I forgot where it was that just now passed regulations on AI, and we're gonna need regulations on AI. Like, it's people are gonna be able to do some very bad, malicious things with it. I already could like I could do some really bad things with a 2,000 limit on GPT-4. Trust me. Like, we're talking like when we talk about like influencing social media and stuff and elections and politics, like, oh man, it's we're gonna need
I
regulations.
think it's going to get
So
really interesting this next election cycle when people get creative with
yeah.
the AI tools. But
Yeah, because I already know I am not a very technical person, but what I am able to do with the GPT-4 API is scary. Like,
yeah,
that scares me. If I'm able to do that, what really smart people are gonna be able to do. So Yeah, I think that's about it. Unless we got any other comments or whatever, we can wrap it up.
There was a comment, but I think this might be something we can talk about in the next episode. Somebody, Rana Muhammad asked. Well, it looks like he recently put out an SEO course. Oh no, sorry, he recently completed an SEO course. Okay, good. Definitely take a look at ours over on localclienttakeover.com if you haven't yet. And again, we're going to be updating those soon. But he just completed a course and is asking, how do I get clients out of the marketplace? So very common question, but a very important
Mm.
one. We could probably try to take this and answer this for the next episode.
That could actually, yeah, that should probably just be our topic for next episode because that's a
Right, especially if
good
there's
one.
just new ways to kind of go about prospecting and outreach, especially now that we have AI tools. Because I know the last time.
Yeah. AI tools in Zapier. Oh, here, go find companies on Google that have a GBP listing that don't have a website
Got
listed on
meet this
it.
criteria. Yep, you can make your own
Send them an
custom.
email through Zapier. You write an email, customize it to them from the information you find on the list. Yeah, it's so definitely let's do that next week. Let's dig into some prospecting, new tactics, old tactics that still work. There's a ton of old stuff that still
There's
works.
still old stuff, old
Yeah,
traditional stuff that's going to work, but we can
for
definitely try
sure.
to dive into that one for next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, make sure to tune in next week, Rana. And for everybody else here, make sure to look out for that episode coming out next week. So, this was episode 192. Thank you again for tuning in. Go ahead and share this podcast with any of your friends in the industry. You can even share this directly on your Facebook if you want, also. But giving us your feedback always helps us out a bunch, and giving us comments, as you've seen here, keeps the conversation moving. So, thank you so much for everybody that's tuning in. We will see you guys next week.
Bye.